Welcome, everyone. I'm Shannon Corn. I am so excited to introduce you to a fellow coach, Juliette Stapleton. She is an online visibility strategist. She mentors coaches and experts. Juliette is internationally recognized for her direct, non-traditional marketing methods. She teaches how to show up online confidently, build strong positioning as an authority in your niche, and attract perfectly aligned clients and opportunities. Juliette is a seasoned podcast host, a passionate speaker, and a writer featured in Forbes talking about staying visible in uncertain times. She's an active contributor to Entrepreneur, influencer, and multiple other major online publications. She's an expert on Facebook profile marketing, human design, and online visibility. Welcome, Juliette. I'm so excited to have you here today to have this conversation. I really think that this is kind of the backbone of this whole event, is why most marketing advice doesn't work. And I think it's really frustrating because I don't know if this has been your experience when you're working with clients, but when we first come into the online space, we hire a coach teaches us one strategy and they say, like, this is it. This is how you market. And it may or may not be a great fit for your personality. And it can really cause a lot of frustration. Some people even just end up leaving, the space because they're not happy. So I would love to talk a little bit about how you help entrepreneurs kind of navigate that, finding the marketing that works for them and what that can look like.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. This is my favorite subject, and not just because this is something I do in my business, but it's also something that have affected me personally as well on my visibility journey several times, and really, really badly. Even when I thought that I'm already, on the road of figuring everything out for me, and then thinking, okay, how can I top this up, and hiring a coach, and the coach would be saying, this is how you do it. And now go and do it. And within a week, not only I haven't done this, I've disconnected completely with my why I'm running a business, why am I even bothering this, and going into this cocoon that lasted for months, really impacting my business, my revenue, everything, and I had to do so much inner work to reconnect, to even find any kind of motivation, which for a main breadwinner in the family, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure. And it made me think for so long why these things are happening, because that wasn't just once that it happened to me. And I found almost every time that I hired a coach or worked with a coach who told me to do a certain thing the very strict way, even when I approached them and I said, listen, that doesn't feel right, they said, trust me, Juliette, just do it. And I did it against my best feelings and my best, the intuition was saying, don't do it. And I did it. And I felt like, oh my God, my reputation has been damaged, because people can see our audiences. They're full of people who are intelligent human beings. They're not some number on your friends list, on your Facebook profile, or, on your email list. They're real people who can discern when you're genuine, authentic, or when you are just doing things that are out of integrity sometimes without realizing. So I'm not shaming anyone here. If you've been in this situation and you recognize yourself, and then Juliette's here saying out of integrity, I am not shaming anyone, because I have been there so many times and I've experienced that shame, self-shame. And I think that it was one of the worst things in my business. But how do you avoid this is the question. How do you find it? And I've been looking for that answer. And later on, maybe in this conversation, not maybe, but surely in this conversation, we are going to be talking about how I found the answers to that. But before I even reveal where the answers were for me and what I'm helping now my clients, I want to just talk a little bit about traditional marketing, because when you come to, even if I have a degree with marketing in the name of the degree, and I tell you, nothing that I've learned there is applicable to my coaching business. Traditional advice, marketing advice, is really aimed at larger organizations. They're not necessarily aimed at solopreneurs or coaches, people who need to build a know, like, and trust factor, because their audience will really base the decision whether they want to work with them or not on personal liking of this person. This is how we choose a coach. If I like someone, I'm obsessed with them, and it's what they do is almost secondary. If they do something I've been looking for, that's like a bonus, but how obsessed I am with this person determines my investment. As simple as that. Yes, of course, not everyone is like that, but we're emotional creatures, and majority of people make their purchasing decision based on that emotional connection. Yes, there's very, very few very logical people who will try and find someone the best in the industry. I don't know how to work with a person I'm not connected on a personal level. I just don't know. People are important to me. Correct people in my world are important to me. And sometimes I make mistakes, as I mentioned, because I was obsessed with all those coaches I mentioned, and I still love them on a personal level, like really deeply, I love them. So how come that I love them, but they were the ones that derailed me in my journey? And it was all because we have, almost every one of us at some point looks at someone more successful and says, what worked for them? Because if they could do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing you can think and say. That is the worst thing. And why? Because we're not all made the same. We're so different, and that's what makes us beautiful and attractive to each other, because we're different and we bring our own contributions. And if one person did something a certain way that was aligned with who they were, that wasn't out of integrity with who they were, and it fit well, even energetically, their audience response, so they're making the money, in their businesses, and at the same time, they're really changing people's lives. They're really helping those who are also aligned, those who are like them. But how do you know whether you're like them or you're not like them if you're basing your investment on purely obsession with this person? You just want more of them in your world.
Yeah.
You see where the problem is sometimes. And then because, and I've been in that situation. I have a coach I love dearly. I think she's like my twin. Our birthdays are even reversed, like mine is 3rd of September, hers is 9th of March. We always say we're twins. And I, for years, said, if she can do it, I can do it. If she can do it. She was such a big motivation for me, until one day I realized, no, because she's very different energetically from me. So for me personally, this whole discernment, like what works for you, what is important, what levels of energy you have naturally is important, how are you with people, how people perceive you, where there are people, which people open up to you, and at the same time, which people always give you a pushback, like what's happening in those situations when all this happening. That's what was bothering me until I discovered human design. Human design is taking over the world. I can tell you that. It's a very, very new concept. It was created at the end of the 80s, and it's literally such an accurate profiling system that is rooted in astrology and I Ching, Book of Wisdom, the hexagrams, the Chinese. So a lot of Chinese wisdom. They're very ancient rules, Kabbalah, a little bit of that. There's a lot of things that are put together for human design. But for me, I'm a personality test junkie. Human design. Yes.
Tell me what my Enneagram is. What is my human design? Yes. Yeah.
And you know what? And I've been so many times taking these personality tests. And yes, they were great. I self-identified with the answers. They helped me. Jung archetypes were really good for my branding. I could really tap into my strengths, but they never gave me a 100% understanding of how I am in my life, the energies I have, the how I interact with people. Human design gave it all. So human design is based on the moment when you're born. let's call it a cosmic imprint. So there is a little bit of a woo-woo end to it, but it's a really, really practical information. You know, it took me a year to step out of my human design closet and say, I am going to do it for my clients, because I was so afraid to just become branded as, you know, now she's gone into the woo-woo land. Although I'm a spiritual person, I have always been open to all these things, you know. And the Chinese book of wisdom, I've been asking the book of wisdom for guidance since I was, I don't know, 10, you know. So this was something that was naturally in my life. And yet it was very scary for me, very pragmatic, very left-brained, logical person. You know, I'm a great strategist. And it was great. It was difficult for me to come out of my closet and say, but I couldn't hold back. This is so accurate. This explained everything to me. It explained why those people who I followed, they were so attractive to me, and why I felt like I can do it when I was in their presence. And yet when I was on my own with my own energetics, things just didn't work. And this system is absolutely amazing, because it's all about how your aura is even shaped in a way and perceived and interacted with people, plus these definitions, which is like broadcasting frequencies that we have in us, like set things, set themes that we're broadcasting to the world. Right? This is the imprint that we have. Now, we also have a lot of openness, and it's those energies that maybe we are not broadcasting, but we're receiving them, and those other themes. And this is what I love. We are all things. It's not that we're some sort of, you know, you don't have to put labels on people and put them in a box. Like sometimes personality tests put you in the box. Whereas with human design, it's only on the surface level, we're adding these labels just to identify what that is. But really, you have all the energies. So you're only using labels to learn and understand when you're doing it correctly. Of course, there's people who tend to just take everything, and that's a new belief system for them. But human design is not a belief system. It is an experiment. And so I have been experimenting with my human design for now the 3rd year. And for the last year, I've also been helping my clients. So let's talk about actually how this affects everything, right? So about 70% of people, roughly, of the population are a type called generators. And there's a sub group in that type called manifesting generators. I think that you're a manifestor.
I'm a manifester. Yes.
You'll have to wait. You'll have to wait till okay, so we're going to talk with those people who actually are walking around with access to the life force and the energy to do everything they want and passionate about. Not every one of them will listen to this and say, well, you know I'm a generator, I did the test, but I don't feel energized all the time. And this is where, you know, we have to also work with alignment. There is a certain strategy for each type. If you're following this strategy in life, that's when this access to all the potential you have, all the strengths you have, all the gifts and the magnetism that you have to attract the correct people into your life and business, obviously, that's when it's activated. So for generators, and I think that is amazing. I'm a projector, so I'm a different type. For me, I just think that this whole principle is amazing. These guys are in constant dance with the universe, the constant communication. They just need to look on the outside, not listen to their mind, but look on the outside and see where in their body, around the diaphragm, where the body starts lighting up or filling them. Some people describe like bubbles or butterflies. They have this sacral chakra, sacral center that's defined, and it activates, and it just tells them yes or no. And it's about listening to your body, and human design is all about body awareness and not listening to this noisy, little chatter box here that is not really there. It's there for inspiration and ideas, but it's not there to guide our lives, unlike the society wants us to believe, right? We have this body, we have this intuition, and the generators, manifesting generators, they have this literally a physical way of knowing from looking or hearing something from something on the outside to respond in the physical way in their body and have that guidance. Like, how beautiful is that? How does this show in business? For example, if you're a generator or manifesting generator, you're in a Facebook group, I don't know, reading a post, and then you're going into comments. Maybe it was a post on the topic of the offer that you maybe kind of thought, maybe I could do this. This is something that I do. And then you're reading the comments, and in the comments, people are sharing their experiences, you know, and this person says, yeah, and I really love memberships because, you know, you can access the materials anytime you want. You have the support anytime you want. If you fell off the wagon, you can, you know, always go in, ask for help. There's going to be a lot of support. And the other person says, I hate memberships. I always feel stuck there. You know, I'm a lone wolf energy. And, you know, and they have this discussion, but you're reading this. And as you're reading, for example, you read, you know, I love support, and you have this feeling inside you. The butterflies came, the bubbles came. That's your response. So you saw something on the outside, you've responded because you have been thinking, shall I offer membership? And so you've responded like this. That's a good sign from the universe that you could be actually setting up the membership. And maybe that's the way to do. If you're reading this and you're feeling this physical response. It's the same with, for example, maybe a person said something, a potential client on the call said something, and it just lit you up, and you feel inside you're saying, yes, I like this, whatever they're saying, I like this. This is the right person. So you can make that decision to work with that person based on the fact that your body said yes. The universe showed or spoke or, you know, showed you something, presented you something, and your body responded. And so your strategy as a generator or a manifesting generator is to respond, and you have to wait. And it's a horrible word, but trust me, when it comes to projectors, we have to wait for everything, as we say, but it's not really true. I'll come to this in a moment. But this art of waiting is amazing, because you don't have to, it feels like, oh, Jesus, like, how can I not take action? But if you only slow down a little bit, these signs, the universe is ready to give you, because if you are a generator or a manifesting generator, you're born for the universe to co-create with you. And if you just lean back and allow the universe to lead you a little bit and show you what's correct for you, and maybe sometimes things even don't work out, but they didn't work out, and now you have an experience that was correct for you. So even mistakes are good, because we have to learn, and we are learning, you know, from mistakes. So this is and this waiting, the more you trust, the less you have to wait, because you will get more synchronicities, you will get more signs, you will learn to hear your body when your body just says no or says yes, and then you can act upon this decision. There's also such thing in human design as authorities, and with half of the population, we have this emotional authority, which means that you might have this response, but you are living constantly in surfing this emotional waves, ups and downs, and you really need to just wait a little bit more and just see how you feel, you know, when you're up and when you're down, and get to that emotional clarity. And if you're still feeling good about something, please, you know, do it. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. So that's the strategy for generators, and that's great with choosing marketing strategies, because as I said, you can just create discussions, listen to other people's talking, you know, read some things, just be discerning that it's not coming from your inspiration, from your mind saying this is what you should be doing because it makes sense, or it's logical, or because this is what people say you should be doing, or somebody said it works for me, so it's going to work for you. As we said, this is the worst thing to say. And so many, it's just unaware coaches, you know, I don't, again, no blaming, no shaming, but that's just the truth, you know? So, and listen to those and feel what's inside your body. If you don't feel anything, because it's not always on or off, maybe you need more details. Maybe it's not the right timing. Trust yourself, trust your body, trust the universe to present you correct things. Like, how beautiful is that?
Yeah. And I think it's something that we, you know, a lot of times we're kind of told, like, you need to make decisions, you need to be moving, and you don't, and that doesn't really allow you to feel in your body, whether you're a generator or just in general, when we're talking about like intuition, like allowing yourself to have an emotional response or a feeling in our body. When we totally ignore that, we do end up doing things in a way that doesn't end up feeling good. I think that's actually a very common experience. Like you had that experience. I've had that experience. Almost every entrepreneur I have talked to has had that experience where they're like, I don't even know how I ended up here. I'm doing this thing. I don't really like it. It doesn't light me up. I don't want to get out of bed and be in my business every day. And so like giving yourself permission to explore these things is really, it's important if you want a sustainable, fulfilling business.
I love what you said. And that's a great bridge now, because we were just talking about, generators, manifesting generators. These guys have this center, the sacral center, which is a life force itself defined, right? So if they are following their strategy to response, and they're focusing on things that light them up, right? Then they have a capacity of actually every day wake up, focus on things that light them up, and actually feel great, and then go to bed, right? Wake up in the morning, and it's like you recharge your battery. And so you have this access, but you just, obviously, if you don't feel energized, you're focusing on something, or you're doing something that doesn't light you up. It's as simple as that, right? So it's just looking for these things. But these are the energy types. Let's go to us, because you're a manifestor, I'm a projector. The other two types. Then there's also reflectors. We'll talk slightly about them. There's only 1% of them. But for us, for these three types, we don't have, even in our, wildest dreams, that capacity of actually having, no matter how we love what we're doing, we can't do it every day. Mm-hmm. And this is something that goes against to the conditioning that our society has, where like 9 to 5, wake up, 5 a.m. club, get you ready for the day and all this. Well, I will tell you, I can't do the 5 a.m. club, because
me neither.
The thing about non-energy types is that we need so much more rest. We're actually not here to do. There's less of us, like as I said, 70% of the population are either manifesting generators or generators. They have this capacity. They're the doers. They're the creators. They're the ones that are building, the builders of this cool beauty that we're in. And I don't mean by that they're in any way better or worse, right, than other types. But then we have other people with other roles here. And our roles here are to be, not to do. For example, you are a manifestor, Shannon, and your role here is to ignite and inspire people to take action. Here's a funny thing. Sometimes I talk to manifestors and I say, you're here to ignite, you're here to inspire. And they're like, I am not a firework. I can't even, I barely ignite myself. What are you talking about? And this is just, again, not being aware of how, for manifestor, they don't even need to do anything. If they're in the creative sparkle, in the creative zone, and they just can say, this sounds great, I'd love to do this, or I'm going to do this. And then they never finish, because they don't have the energy to finish, but they're so good at starting projects. Mm-hmm. My little nephew is a manifestor. I was just talking about my sister about him. Starting projects, so much energy, like creative sparkle. I'll do this. And then, loss of interest, but why? Because manifestors are not here to build this up. They're just literally here to creatively inspire themselves and others. And then they move on, because another inspiration comes. And they have manifestors. What make manifestors is that they have a throat center defined. They always have this throat center defined. And it's not just the only sign, and they have another motor in their body, usually defined, and it's connected to the throat. So another motor center, but not sacral, that the life force. And so they can actually, with their voice, manifest their intentions. That's what manifestor means, that you can express yourself through your voice. And that has magic power too. And I find this really ignite others. When I am in my low days of energy, and this is another thing with non-energy people, we don't have everyday capacity. We can have a creative sparkle, or projectors like me, we can go into the zone and we work in bursts. But then there could be this stillness and nothing to give, and you have to recharge. And the more the burst, the more you're not aware of how much energy you're spending on something, the more you will have to pay with forced rest. Is that your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
And here's the secret with marketing. You have to understand that if you are a projector, a manifestor, or a reflector, that you don't have that capacity to work every day. That means you can't possibly be always on. You cannot possibly love your business every day or be so inspired that you can just get up and do things every day. You don't have that. So you need to try and allow yourself more rest. You're not here to do, you're here to be. It's the scariest thing to say to an entrepreneur. And it was the scariest thing in my journey to allow myself to just be and not hustle all the time and not do all the time. And there are days when I don't do anything, and I might have like a recording like this. Today, I didn't do anything in my business. I wasn't feeling all that energetic or inspired. And so honoring that when you have the stillness, this period where you need to rest, that you really need to rest because you're actually subconsciously preparing for this next leap and next burst of creativity, and taking our lifestyle in order for it to be, the most aligned. It's completely against everything that people are telling us to do. We have to work with our energy patterns, and we need to make sure that we do allow ourselves to rest and we make the most of when we have this creativity. In marketing as well, some of the strategies I always advise people with no energy is make sure you're repurposing what you're creating. Mm-hmm. Be intentional when you're creating content. Don't just create, like, say you have to be visible on Facebook. Yes, of course, everybody needs to be visible. It's a game of frequency, and people, the more they see your profile picture, and even if they don't read every post, the more they see you, the more likely they're going to read one of those posts, because whatever triggers. But how do you do that? You can't just post every day something of amazing value. It's just not going to happen. You are not going to have that creative capacity. So you have to be smart about and selfish about what you create. And when you are in the zone and you've created something, be intentional. Make sure that this is something that you can save, that you can reuse. Maybe in 3-4 months, you can just repost it. I do a lot of that, and my posts from last year are still bringing me clients now because the client is reading this now. I wrote the post when I was energetically super aligned and really felt it. And that energy is then captured in that post. So don't create content for the sake of it. And that's for every types. I really believe you shouldn't, even if you're a generator and manifesting generator, if you're passionate about it, that's when you create. If you're not passionate about it, it's going to be mediocre, melting chocolate kind of yucky content that people scroll past. Yeah, so you're not stopping the scroll.
And I think you made this really good point about until you have an understanding about the way that your energy works, it can kind of be a crapshoot, because the coach that I had, who I on a personal level adore her, she is I can't remember, she's a manifesting generator or a generator. So the things that she was teaching me were, show up every day, send some friend requests, send some DMs, post content. And I was like, I can't, like, physically, I can't. And some of this, has to do with some health stuff. But when I ignore the way my natural energy flows, my chronic illnesses get worse. And so I had to reevaluate, like, if this is a marketing technique that is going to require me to show up in the same energy every day, I cannot maintain this long term. I can force myself to do this for a while, but I will crash and burn. I've done it. I've been there, done that. I have the t-shirt. So, yes. It's this understanding of energetics. And this is probably the most woo conversation of this event. But I really think whether you really believe in, like, energy, like, knowing this is just another tool to understand yourself and the way that you
Absolutely.
work.
That's exactly my vision of this. And this is why I mentioned I was so insecure about coming out and saying, I'm going to use human design, because a lot of people, if they're not really used to spirituality, or maybe they see it in a very, sometimes we see it in a very contrasty way. We don't see that there's like 50,000 shades of gray there. So, but how can you find your way? And this system, to me, it offers real practical, really logical things. Yes, they're based on how we energetically interact with each other, but I see that and I experience that. For example, people come to me and say, my coach saying that I need to do lives, and I don't know, I'm so afraid to say something wrong, or, I always stumble. And I'm saying, but you don't go live to articulate yourself. You write for that. You go live so people can get your vibe. And even people who are not spiritual, they understand about the vibe, right? I don't like his vibe, her vibe. I love her vibe, right?
Yeah.
So the vibe is the energy that you're feeling.
Yeah.
The vibe is the person's personal energy, which is literally their aura. It's like, what do they, how are they here, and how are we without words can feel each other? And that everyone experienced that. You experience that with your partners, with your best friends, with your pets, right? You always experience this. So that's what we're talking about. This is very interesting to mention while we're at it, that the aura shape is really at the heart of how people perceive you. So generators, manifesting generators, and I know we talk a lot about them, but there are a lot of them in the world. There are chances that 70% of listeners will be that, right? And guys, that kind of strategy that Shannon just described, sending friend requests and, showing up every day, I actually used to teach that myself, as in like, this is how you do it. But yes, there are people who get amazing results with that. I have clients that are manifesting generators and generators who have achieved amazing things with this particular strategy. But it's true that if it's not in your nature to be on every day, when you're focusing on something that you love, or you're driven even by whether it's money, and there's no shame of being driven by, providing for the family, or it's a sort of bigger impact, whatever drives you, if you don't have access constantly to that drive because you're just tired, you have to find other ways to do the same thing. So for I think I'm having this Juliette Stapleton moment, which is a blank head. And I was making a point, and that's why I wanted to talk about the generators and manifesting generators, but it's skipping me now. I hope it will come back, because it was about the oh yes, and this is how it comes back. And you just experienced the Juliette Stapleton effect. So I was talking about the shape of the aura. Manifesting generators and generators in general, they have this very enveloping aura. It's a real energy of group energy, so it's like a hug. When I talk to my generators and manifesting generators, and I always feel like I'm hugged. I call my mom. My mom's a generator, my sister as well. And I call them and I feel like, that was lovely. That was like a big hug, because they have that kind of energy, right? It's brings you in. Manifestor has a repelling energy. Now, this is not to be perceived in a negative way.
When I first found out I was a manifestor, and I read something, I was like, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, just kind of, they portray you as a sort of horrible, evil person, but it's not that. It's not that. It's the fact is that, if you come into the room and you have the kind of like creative buzz, something came into your mind and you want to do it. And that's what manifestor is literally here to do, right? Ignite. There's an idea, and that's it. You're going to do it. Your strategy is to inform that you're going to do it, not to ask permission, not to, necessarily invite. You just need to tell other people. But when you're not telling other people, then you're coming into the room. I feel this a little bit of anxiety in a good sense, right? This anxious doing energy from you, but I don't know where it's coming from. So I start feeling like my energy, like I just start feeling like I don't want it. I feel like uncomfortable. But if you came into the room, it's like, I'm so inspired. I want to do this. I'm going to do a lot of ironing now. I'm just doing like, say something like house chores, right? But you actually informed me, and I'm sitting in the same room. Now I'm like, oh yeah, she's so inspired. I now understand why I'm feeling this energy, and I'm going to be supportive and be like, yeah, you know what, let me help you fold, let me help you do this. So that's how the ignition works. And that's why informing is such an important strategy for a manifestor. So there's nothing, I love manifestors. Some of my most favorite women in the world are manifestors. And maybe it's because I don't know many men who are manifestors personally. That's why I said women. But you know what lovely about the manifestors? They have the voice. They have this voice. They don't even realize they have the voice, but they have the voice that is amazing to listen to. And therefore, podcasts are amazing if you're a manifestor. And I know that, this is exactly what you're doing, which is amazing. And the second thing is that for the rest of us, mortals, we're listening to a little bit of you talking, right? And no matter what we were procrastinating, we can actually take that energy. And even if you're not talking about what I need to do, I find that when I talk to manifestors or I just listen to a podcast, I have a couple and yours is coming up to that list, and I need to do something, but I'm feeling a little bit sort of need a little push. That's all I just need to listen to a manifestor. They have the energy that gets me going into doing what I need to do. And I think it's amazing, so that's how we can use. So if you are a manifestor, think about that you have the voice, whether you realize this or not. It's often something that maybe growing up, your parents were telling you not to, do things. And it happens with the manifestors are complex children to be parenting. In fact, the whole human design system was created by a manifestor who literally presented it as this is the system for the parents to understand and parent their children correctly.
Yeah, I could see that. I was very misunderstood at times as growing up. And I was told, and I was often told I was too much because I was very verbal and so definitely
I had a huge relief when I found out about my nephew that he is a manifestor, because it was impossible for me to be around that child. He constantly, before he learned to speak, he was just so angry all the time, pointing at things and couldn't speak, and he was just shouting and crying, and it was so difficult for my sister. And then I went into, I got into human design and did charts for the whole family. And when I did his chart, I was saying, bingo, I understand. And he at that stage started speaking. So he was much less frustrated because the voice is the thing, the ignition. He could now express himself, and but this is these are the things. So same with business. So I'm kind of trying to bring this. How can you use that if you're a manifestor in business? Focus on publicity. Focus on creating a podcast, speaking on the podcast, anywhere where you can speak with passion. And podcasts are easier because they're interview style. Every time two people are involved in the conversation, it's so much easier to speak than when you're talking to a piece of plastic solo. And you're like experiencing the range of imposter syndrome and the rest and feeling silly. And yes, you can train yourself and be okay. I'm actually quite okay myself now after 6 years doing this, talking to a plastic camera. In fact, I can tell really good, like honest stuff to this camera because it doesn't judge.
You're like, the camera's my friend. We've been together for a long time.
I go and I can't even go short because it's like so nice to talk to my camera and tell her everything. And there's no blank face staring back at me and, anything like that. So I just, even if I go live, I don't think about who's watching. I just look at my camera or myself sometimes and just, enjoy it. But these are the things. So use that voice. Where can you ignite things? Where can you, and you can, in fact, initiate conversations if you are a manifestor, because you have this power. So you don't need to send people salesy messages, but you can absolutely invite them into your programs, your, little things that you're doing. It's in your energy and you're going to receive so much less pushback. Unless you're using really horrible templates. Please never use templates. Trust yourself
like templates at all.
It happens because people don't trust that they know what to say. But the truth is that there's nothing you can say that is right unless you say it from the heart. If you don't say it from the heart and you're using some sort of template, you're already shooting yourself in the foot. You really are. Because first of all, that same person, how how many times I would get the same template, sometimes on the same day.
The copy paste messages.
Oh my God. It's just so embarrassing sometimes. And sometimes, big coaches are hiring people who are looking for, setting appointments for them and setting booking calls for them. And they're using these templates. And it's just so horrible and just doesn't help us, doesn't help the rest of us. But if you're speaking from the heart, so you don't need to, create anything groundbreaking, just be normal. Like if you were talking to someone in the real life, how would you invite them to a program? Say, hey, I have a program, and so you can create your own templates that you will repeat or copy paste, but just do them the way you speak, and with respect. The person on the other side is not a number, not a profile picture, but a real person with real feelings and who understands, when there's BS. And if they didn't ask you about, your full bio and a website link in the first message that you're sending them, don't send it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. You don't come up to people in the street and give them the story of your life and then, like a business card. That would be weird.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. I'm a Facebook girl, as we mentioned. So when I'm saying about these things, it's all about Facebook marketing, of course. So let me just talk a little bit, because I don't want to have this interview over and then there's no projectors and reflectors. We never really spoke about them. So I speak a little bit about reflectors. Reflectors are very, very rare type. And it's what makes a reflector is that they don't have any centers defined at all. So they're here like mirrors to others. They reflect other energies. An interesting thing is that I always thought that I didn't know any reflectors. When I started studying human design, didn't know that. I was thinking, how are they? There must be some sort of like a mystical unicorn creatures. Like, what are they like? How is it when you don't have any definition? And then when I was doing the charts, and I thought, I would like to do charts for people that I've been in relationships with. And I did a chart for my first husband, who ended up being a reflector. So I was married to one for 3 years. I know them very well. They're in any way magical creatures. They're just ordinary people, But there's very interesting thing that now a lot of things started making sense when I actually realized I know a reflector. Reflectors, because they're so open to other people's broadcasts, they don't have really these kind of strong broadcasts of themselves. They do reflect, they do like mirror other people. And so their aura has to be, it's repelling, but in a different way. It's very closed. They actually don't build very deep relationships with people. And they're not really, and their aura is made in a way that they might reflect people. I know my ex-husband, when he would go, with one of the friends, I always knew who he hung out that day. Like I always knew when he came home, the way he spoke changed, the way, his mimics, he was literally mimicking that other person, right? So that's kind of, it's not every reflector behaves that way, but that was an extreme case. But they react to the cosmic events, though. So any planetary events and transits, that's what affects what the reflector is. In fact, every day there is the kind of human design weather, the cosmic planetary alignment that can, in connection with your own chart, activate certain things in you. There's days when I am tapping, I'm like a generator. I'm not a generator, but those days I am, and I feel more energy. I even feel like I'm responding. I feel that kind of stuff in my body when things happen. I'm like, okay, so today I'm a generator. Okay, I'm going to use this energy. I'm going to, achieve things, and I can work, and some other days I feel like, yeah, okay, there is no energy today to tap into. There's no extra energy. So the reflectors would every day, depending on the cosmic transit, would be a different type, or can be a different type. And that's so interesting, because then you can go into, there's a website called geneticmatrix.com, and you can actually see what transit is it now. You can get a very, very affordable account if you want to see how it connects to you. So if you're a reflector, it's really worth it. But because you're so affected by the cosmic forces, you will also, for your decision making, the authority I was mentioning about the emotional authority, there's 9 authorities, so we're not going to go so deep into that. But with the reflectors, they have to, their strategy, they have to wait a lunar cycle. They have to really sit on things. They cannot decide on the spot. They have to get this clarity after this lunar cycle, after they've been all these types, after they've reflected and maybe let go of some of the energies of people that they're consuming all the time. That's when they will know. And that's a really important strategy. So we mentioned generators, manifesting generators respond to the outside. Manifestors inform people, so they get on board, right? So they get on board with you. And reflectors just wait a lunar cycle. It's important because the planets are more influential for you than people. You're not here to build very, very deep connections with people. You're just here to reflect them, right? Like a mirror. And then we have the projectors. And the projectors, I'm a projector, also non-energy type. Projectors are here to guide. We're very good at seeing how can we do things efficiently, more efficiently. Maybe that's because we're non-energy people. Also, we are just so good at then how can we do it that it's done in less steps but much better results. I am literally like that. I'm always looking how can I make it faster but with more results. And we also have this energy that is shaped like a movie projector, right? Like lighthouse. So we literally see into others. And that presents in terms of us seeing into others and sharing with them or guiding them. That's where we can get a pushback because we're too strong with that energy. It's too focused. So if a person didn't ask me for advice and I'm coming in with my energy, I see how I can do it better, or I can do it, how they can do something better, or how they can improve. And if I tell them without them inviting me into giving them guidance, there's going to be a blank face at the minimum, or a pushback, and a lot of projectors then get very bitter, and that's their misalignment feeling, they get really bitter and so traumatized by people not seeing them and not recognizing them, because that's so important for us that we're seen and recognized for this vision, for this light we have. So in marketing, it's so important that you actually recognize yourself first, right? And share that, because we have to wait. Our strategy as projectors is to wait for the invitation, because I just explained why, right? But people can only invite us and our advice if they see who we are, like really our true value, our light. So we have to focus on shining. We have to constantly focus on shining. The lighthouse, right? The boats come to the lighthouse. Lighthouse just stands there and shines. In marketing, it's so important that we focus on when we have the energy, when we have the creative zone, and we get into zone. I get into zone where, like, when I'm in the zone, time slows down. All my pots are burnt. I don't cook currently at all. When I was a child, I burnt all my mom's crockery, because I'd be, warming something up, and I'm like, okay, I'll just read a chapter in this book. 2 hours later, and smoke is in the apartment, and that's literally how we get in the zone. When you're in the zone, you can do so much. We're capable to do so much, and but we're not here to do. We're much more here to guide, to create systems, to administer. Some administration is great, because we can see how things can get better working with people as guides and coaches. And by the way, projectory energy, a lot of people have in other engagements and channels. So it's not just guidance, is not just only for projectors, although projectors are really good at that. So everybody, no matter what your type is, you might still have a lot of projectory energy. And that's the energy of, you have to be visible. I've been branded the queen of visibility, and I always, when I found out about human design, I was saying, oh my God, I'm a projector, I'm not consistent. How am I doing interviews on how to be visible online consistently, how to be consistent online? Because I found systems where half of my visibility is automated, because I've been able to, shine my light intentionally and then repurpose these pieces of content. So again, we're talking about this repurposing. It's even great for energy types, because guys, it saves you so much time. You just have to be, focus always on building the library of content that you previously created that can be reused. And there's the best, I think the crown jewel of this whole strategy. People need to hear something much more than once in order for this to sink in. Much more repetition. If you follow any of the big coaches, Tony Robbins, I love John Assaraf, if you follow them for a while, you will see they really only talk about 3, 4, 5 maybe topics maximum. And within these topics, there's different variations, but it always still boils down to something that they're talking about. And these are the topics that they're talking about. And then their trainings over time will be repeating, and they might reframe them, but it's still the same thing that they're saying to you. we have to repeat. We learn through repetition. That's how we learn everything. Like children learn to walk and talk through repeating and practicing and mastering this through repetition. That's how we become talented and amazing at something we do, through repetition. And that's how we attract clients, through repeating things over and over and over again, and just drilling it, basically. How good you are. Toot your own horn, because nobody else will. and just kind of embracing this and doing it with the good intention. You're not showing up to manipulate anyone. You're not showing up to coerce someone into doing something they don't want. You only want to attract people who see that value in you. They see who you are, and that regardless of your type. You only want those people who can work with your energy. So if you are inconsistent, your ideal clients will be appreciative that sometimes you need a downtime. They're not going to be pushing you all the time. That's not going to make an ideal client for you, right? Or if you are consistent, let's say, manifesting generator, and you sometimes just change direction, and not sometimes, very often, just because you have this nature, you can't be pigeonholed. They have to be as fast. They have to accept that it's great to move with you in that pace, right? So, and again, we're all talking about energies here. Mm-hmm. What energy do you have? And that's why traditional marketing doesn't work. That's why I'm just kind of bringing it back to the first. Traditional marketing never talks about your personal energy and how to work with it, and what people, the people that you're attracting in your business, what energy they should have, so your business is enjoyable and not a nightmare business where you just, you feel trapped in it. Mm-hmm. We're not starting our businesses to feel trapped in it and to work like horses. Yeah. We're starting businesses because we have these dreams. We need a bit of money to make these dreams come true. That's why we start our businesses. Let's be honest. I really feel like sometimes people just shy away from talking about, what is the motivation behind starting your business. And it's money most of the time. Otherwise, why would you bother? It's too much. There's stuff to do.
Lot of stuff to manage in a business.
That is not nice. Yes, like accounting. It's or things like you don't enjoy, and you don't have to. If you wanted to do this for any kind of other reason that is not money, then why bother doing all these things that are like, boring and hard? And you can just show up and do whatever you want. Become a motivational speaker and do it at your, don't start a business. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of commitment. So if you are starting a business and you're saying, okay, well, you know what? I'm starting a business because I want the money, because the money will give me access to some of the things where I can make even more impact, whether it's in my family or in my life, me personally. Some people don't take care of themselves enough. They need money. When they have the money, they will take care of themselves, so whatever it is. And then you say to yourself, okay, so now I have this motivation, I need to make money. So now I have to think about what energy type, or what energy do I have access to? How can I make this easier for me and enjoyable? Because when I am in the zone, or creatively inspired, or, really into what I'm doing and so satisfied with what I'm doing, that's when I become magnetic. People look at me and they're saying, I want some of that. They're having like a Meg Ryan moment, so that's what you want. That's what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and knowing this about yourself, I was talking to someone, when you're considering potentially doing collaborations or having business partners, knowing things about your own energy. Like someone told me, manifestors and generators make great partners, because manifestors drive the creative beginning. Generators, they get shit done. So, having two manifestors may or may not be a great idea, because lots of great ideas happening, not a lot of, follow through.
There's no follow through. Yeah, exactly. There's just no energy for that. And then you get bored and you move on to something else. It's a real entrepreneurial energy, isn't it? The manifestors. It's like idea there, you do it. So if you're a manifestor, get yourself a generator, a VA, mm-hmm. rather than a business partner, because then you just tell them they need to work, like a good VA, not like a cheap VA who is looking for direction all the time. Just get yourself an executive assistant who is a generator, and they will work everything. And generators are brilliant. Actually, my accountant is a generator. I love her. She's so meticulous. They're a bit slower in their pace than manifesting generators, but they actually get everything done, especially if they love what they're doing. And that's the key, right?
Yeah.
So that's the key.
Yeah. So this is important information, not just in how you market, but really in how you run your business in all areas. Because who you are is going to affect how you're able to show up, what you need to be successful. And so there's no like, oh, you're not, a generator, like then you can't succeed. No, it just looks different.
But it's an experiment also. Just remember, I gave so many, I literally put so many people in the boxes on this episode, but I want to bring back to what I said before. This is just to understand the energy, these labels, these boxes. We actually have all the energy. Even with the daily transits, I said, sometimes you can be, you can tap into other energy. You can go into a real ninja level of human design and say every offer that you put out there has a human design of its own. That moment when you either registered a domain or knew that this is it, this is what I'm going to do. And people, at crazy human design level, they will do charts for their offers and they see what energy they are. I think it's a little bit too far for us to actually find our pace, because at the end of the day, all these things, my business has a manifesting generator energy, but it doesn't make me a manifesting generator at all. And if I try to be one, I'll just burn myself out very quickly. I'll be forced into a complete, nothing to give for a long time. I've been there. I don't want to go back there. So I need to really learn about my own personal energy and then show up in a way that suits me and my lifestyle and activates that magnetism. So that's the key. And this is exactly what I nowadays help people, because we were only talking about the types. There's also other parameters that really we can talk about. The copywriting, we can talk about, based on your profile, what is the energy of how you need to show up. And that's so empowering. So that's, and I hope that maybe you've listened to this and just got really inspired into just tapping tiny bit. Human design doesn't have a shallow end, so you don't need to learn everything about it. But even if you learn just what type you are, what is your decision-making authority, understand it, practice it, like experiment with it, right? And then maybe learn about your profile and what content to produce, that will make you feel aligned. It really is amazing when somebody says to you, you know what, like Juliette, you have this profile, that's 1-3 profile, is very self-absorbed. It's not bad to talk about yourself. Yourself. This is what attracts clients. And so you just talk about yourself. And, every time, I know when I started, experimenting with this, specifically with that, I was writing an article for Entrepreneur, and I said, I'm going to put so much like first person insights there. And I was so afraid they're not going to publish it. And it was about human design. It was my first human design themed article. And I couldn't believe they just loved it. They loved it and they published it. And it was me leaning into what's for my profile, for my type, is the way to express myself to become magnetic. And I've had clients from, such a high-end publication that when you post, you get a lot of exposure. So I did have, I did attract clients from this, but you'd never think that if you talk about yourself, who are you? Like, who are you? Who are we? And yet if it's in your energy, do more of this. And this is great in human design. It gives you these answers. It tells you, if you're this profile, these are your energies, this is what you can do. And just play with it.
Yeah. Well, this has been, I mean, we covered a lot of information in a pretty short window. So I want to wrap up with this final question I've been asking actually all the speakers. And you've been in business, you've been an entrepreneur for a long time now, but what is like the one thing that you know now that you wish you would have known when you started out as an entrepreneur? Like, what is the one lesson that you've learned that, like, had you know? And I know this is a tough one because, right, everything we learn, it's just a lesson, right? We don't make mistakes unless we don't learn from them. But I do think that there are some things that we're like, wow, if I would have figured that out earlier, this would have been so much easier. So
I actually have something. I am buzzing now. This is my inner authority. It tells me to say this. This is a correct thing, right? Just the last couple of weeks, I had a message that had been constantly coming into my mind, like receiving this, that you are in where you need to be at all times. Yes, you might think that you should be much further. You should be making so much more money. You should be having so many more clients. You should be this, you should be that. But you're actually in the right place for you, because it takes time to figure things out. And when you figure things out, the click will happen and there will be a big shift, right? But if the shift happens right now and you're not ready, you're just going to get overwhelmed. I had launches that sold out and I got so many clients and it was amazing, right? And after that, I shut down and stopped promoting because I felt so overwhelmed. I was not ready for that many clients at the same time. I was not ready to even be assured that I can do this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I wasn't ready and I didn't know that. So if I had to say anything to myself is, trust your journey. You're here right now because you are meant to be here. This is an important experience for you to experience this. Sometimes we need to experience stillness to know when there is a, amazing wave of abundance is coming, or we need to experience ugly to understand what beautiful is. So wherever you are, you're not ready for the next level yet. Don't be frustrated with where you are. Don't be angry. Don't be bitter. Just focus on every day trying to be in your best aligned self. Use your creative energy, lean into that rather than spending so much time being frustrated and feeling like you're inadequate or things are not working out. They are. You don't know how long it's going to take for things to work out. Maybe next week, amazing thing happens and just a click happens and you will just get it.
Yeah.
Or maybe it'll take 5 years, because business takes a long time to figure out, especially if you don't have any experience or you're not even some people are naturally good at business and some people aren't, but everybody can be successful in business if they allow their own pace to develop. And I think that's why people give up too early. Sometimes they don't trust their journey.
Yeah, that's a really good way to wrap this up. I think that's really the message of this whole event, right? Is like, where you are is where you should be. And yeah, very powerful. So where can people find you? Where can people connect with you, Juliette? And we will have links and everything in the notes, but like, where do you prefer people to connect with you?
Well, the best place to check out is probably my website currently, JulietteStapleton.com. I do write a lot on my blog there, and some of it about human design, some of it about my experience with human design, some of it about marketing. I talk a lot about marketing. I'm a marketer first, not human design coach, right? So, but where it's important, I always bring human design, because I think energetics is, we are energy creatures. So, this is something. And of course, if you are on Facebook, I'm a Facebook girl, right? I'm on other platforms, but I don't use them for business. So Facebook, look up Juliette Stapleton. You will either see my business page or my personal profile. Actually, send me a friend request, mention this summit, mention the podcast, wherever you're listening. And yeah, I'd love to connect. Trust me, I'm not going to do any hard selling. I don't have templates to send to you. I just would be lovely to connect if this made an impact on you. And I will just feel a little happy that day that there's another person that got impacted.
Well, thank you, Juliette, so much for taking the time to have this conversation. I can't wait for people to hear it. I just think this was such an interesting mix of how energy and business can really beautifully go hand in hand.